On November 22nd, 2024, Tiffanie Lucas was arraigned on the murders of her two sons, Maurice and Jayden. At her arraignment, this video was played, and today we are going to break down this video here on the channel. If you are not subscribed, be sure to click the subscription button now and turn on all post notifications so that you are aware when I make new videos. In the beginning of the video, we see Tiffanie talking to her dog before her neighbor arrives at the door. Once the neighbor arrives at the door, the neighbor and Tiffanie gets into a conversation. Tiffanie tells the neighbor, "I need you." Something inaudible is said by the neighbor, and then Tiffanie tells the neighbor, "I need you" again. The conversation continues, and Tiffanie tells the neighbor she needs a friend, an anchor, someone to hold her down and help her with her house chores and to help her get her sons right. You will also see that Tiffanie appears to be in her night clothes, and her hair is also in total disarray during this conversation. Towards the end of the conversation, the neighbor asks Tiffanie to come here so she can embrace her. But instead of coming to the neighbor, Tiffanie decides to walk off and leave. Let's get into it. Now, we don't know if the previous clip was from the morning of November 7th, but here, Tuesday afternoon, Tiffanie takes her sons to the Waffle House. Here, Tiffanie interacts or doesn't interact with two servers at the restaurant while she sits and waits for her order and while her sons enjoy their lunch or possible dinner. During this interaction, the servers noticed that Tiffanie doesn't seem to be coherent. Now, I'm going to share with you some information about the state I believe that Tiffanie is in during this video. Let's get into it. If you just noticed how she walked into the restaurant, she waddled from side to side. She almost seems to be sleepwalking. And if you look at her hair, once again, her hair is unkept. If you've seen Tiffanie in Facebook videos, wherever she shared her social media, you would see that she kept herself up. But here in this video, she's clearly unkept. and seems to almost not be present. We'll see this mentioned by server number 1 and server number 2. The kids were cracking jokes and smiling. The kids were looking clean and well put together. That's not what it says, but I'm paraphrasing. Usually when someone is going through a psychological hiccup, the person will not take care of their children. The children will be dirty and they won't look clean. This is why this is mentioned by server number 1. If you've never been to a Waffle House or to the Waffle House, you notice that the child placed a piece of paper on the counter. Usually what parents would do at the Waffle House, there's a piece of paper menu for children that's used to help children relax and stay calm while they're at the restaurant, so the children can get one of these menus and they can actually color on the menu. Usually the parent would grab this for the child, but here Tiffanie doesn't grab it. The little boy grabs it himself. Let's continue. She wasn't comprehending anything I was saying. It looked like she was in her own world. Now here, Tiffanie actually embraces her son sitting next to her. And to you, this embrace would seem like that of a mother who's caring and loving. But you have to remember, the server said she seemed to be in her own world. We'll get into why this hug could have meant something differently later on. Let's look at the neurological aspects of the 1,000-yard stare. They mentioned that she kept looking behind her, looking around as if someone was after her. It's here I have to introduce you to something that's known as the 1,000-yard stare. The 1,000-yard stare was something that was noticed by World War I soldiers when they experienced shell shock. There are neurological implications that go along with the 1,000-yard stare and psychological implications that go along with the 1,000-yard stare. I will share with you now. Let's look at the neurological aspects of the 1,000-yard stare. You can brain control every bodily function, but a traumatic hit might disrupt its working. How you react to traumatic events depends on your brain. During these events, your amygdala oblongata makes you hyperactive as it controls fear and emotional progressing. It can put your body in alert mode with consistent signals of danger. So this would explain why when she was looking back as though someone was following her, or looking around as though she was being followed, why she was doing that. This state of alertness can disrupt the functioning of the hippocampus. She was all shaky, trying to count her money, and she started crying. In this psychological state that she's in, this 1,000-yard stare that has taken a part of her, Tiffanie seems to have taken her sons out to their favorite location to have one last meal. As she battles with whatever thoughts are circulating in her head at this moment, as she did earlier when she hugged her son, that seemed to be a final embrace. And as she's getting ready to leave, she knows what she's about to go home and do. That's why she's shaking and crying. Because in her mind, she has made up what has to happen. And sadly, we are about to see what she had made her mind up to do to her sons on the morning of November 8th, 2023. You might experience extreme stress because of these neurological issues. This stress can often affect the working of the prefrontal cortex, which helps you think rationally and regulate emotions. In simple words, your brain might start shutting down a few parts of itself to handle traumatic experiences. It can make your life tough, as you might not be able to connect with present moments and people inadequately, which explains why she wasn't connected with the servants who were talking to her, which explains her total behavior while she's sitting at the mafia. Wednesday morning, November 8th, 2023. The screaming you will hear in the video is from Tiffanie. She went over to a neighbor's house screaming for help. The neighbor, who pulls up in his pickup truck, once he stops at his garage, Tiffanie walks over, and if you look at her shadow, you will see her collapse to the ground. The neighbor then comes from his pickup truck, trying to find out what is wrong. And Tiffanie at this moment is not responding to the neighbor. Now let's look at the psychological reaction. Stare. Disassociation is closely related to the 1,000-yard stare. Look at it from a psychological standpoint. Your brain can detach you from present moments. It can help you get away from overwhelming stress. This brief and prolonged attachment is a disassociation, and it works as a natural defense system against trauma. Now, we don't know what trauma she experienced, what trauma she had. Here, we see that the police has arrived. They run over to Tiffanie to see what's going on with her, but this officer is quickly redirected towards the house where the neighbor went inside to find both of Tiffany's sons shot. The officer then runs back to Tiffanie to place her under arrest. While he's detaining Tiffanie, a paramedic walks up to ask him if she's okay. He then tells that paramedic that she's all right. He needs to go in the house and tend to both of the children, whom she has just shot. If she needs to a psychiatrist, she would tell her.
Is she okay?
Being basically threatened on social media. More views. Sent her text messages calling her, being ready to say that threatening her she was again. It was and different things that happened to her. Following on.
I got one thing on the thing.
These verbal threats that can potentially cause an emotional response inside her. She reported even though these text messages had in her court appearance. So this brief attachment and disassociation and it works as a natural defense. However, it can make your daily life tough.
She's good. Don't move this. She's good.
It's an initial sign of 1,000-yard stare. So, what Here in this clip, the neighbor comes back to the officer and they have a conversation about what took place in the house. And the officer asks the neighbor if he's seen the weapon, in which the neighbor tells him where to find the weapon. He also tells the officer that Tiffanie jammed up the gun. She jammed up the effing gun, which means Tiffanie tried to shoot her sons more than the actual amount of times that she had shot them.
So, can you tell me what happened there?
Engagement in emotional actions disassociation, disengagement.
Where's the guy?
She briefly gave witnesses was also as though she snapped out of it. This could also mean sometimes she spoke to the neighbor, she didn't really seem very coherent. Even as she spoke to the door. We are now in this clip where Tiffanie is being processed. During the processing moment, Tiffanie tells the officers that she shot herself in the ear. Not understanding what Tiffanie said, one of the officers thinks that she said she shot herself in the processing room. But no, she says, I shot myself in the ear, which there is no shot to the ear visibly seen or seen at all by both officers. We then see Tiffanie in the interview room where officer is trying to tell her to relax. She asks the officer, where is she? Seeming to still be in an incoherent state. The officer continues to tell her to breathe and continues to have a conversation with her to get her to relax. The video then comes to an end. And after this video is where I would share the court proceedings with you and moments from the courtroom. These moments introduce us to Jayden's grandmother, who has a conversation with Tiffanie about her state of affairs and how angry she is with the fact that Tiffanie did what she did to those children in such a selfish manner. We also are introduced to Maurice's dad. Tiffany's defense team tried to use text messages from Maurice's dad to say that these text messages put Tiffanie in a state of fear, causing her to do what she did. But to no avail, we finally see that justice was handed down to Tiffanie, regardless of what her defense team tried to bring up. The ending of the video, we hear what the final arraignment was. However, Tiffanie only was received 20 years with the possibility of parole. This angered the family members who are in attendance. With this update, we don't know anything further about this case, only that she was served 20 years with the possibility of parole. Leave any of your thoughts in the comments below. I will catch you in the next video. She didn't seem very coherent. It's as though she was believing that the dog was a person. You know, and we know dogs do understand, but not in the sense of being extremely coherent in the way she was speaking to the dog. And then we see later on, she went through murder. And these feelings and these emotions were still not here. There was still disattachment from reality. Now, I don't think the defense system argued temporary insanity because, as you'll see later on, the judge did not mention anything about temporary insanity. Okay, the person will usually have glossy and unfocused eyes or other signs of poor disassociation.
I'm ready.
Miss Rowan, you are Jayden's grandmother, is that correct?
Yes.
And would you like to address the court with your victim impact statement?
Yes. You know, I had already lost his dad. And then my other son. And then you took Jayden. You have ripped our lives apart. And you know that you could have gave them kids to us, and we would have took care of them. But you have been selfish. My heart is in pieces. And you know that you have always had a place to drop them off. You took him from me, and I hurt every day. Every second of the day, I hurt. And I hope they give you 2 life sentences without the possibility of parole. I want you to suffer just like I'm suffering right now.
Part of this case, we received discovery from the Commonwealth. They took the contents of Tiffany's phone, in which there were text messages and screenshots of text messages. You testified that you had previously threatened Tiffany, correct?
Yep.
Do you recall sending the following text message? Bitch, I'm gonna kill your son, fuck you. You think shit's a game like you forgot who I am. I'm Maurice, bitch, and if you think I was fucked up to you before, just imagine what I'm gonna do now since I can't see my son. I'm rich, you broke-ass loser bitch. You will never see your kids again.
No.
No further questions, Your Honor.
I have hope. Tiffany has a good way to manipulate. You being her lawyer, I can see you
Your Honor.
sending the text
Hold
message.
on, Mr. Baker. Hold on one second. Yes, sir.
I believe that's outside the scope of questions.
Mr. Taylor, any questions?
No questions.
Mr. Baker, thank you very much, sir. If you would, please have a seat back in the courtroom where you were seated. This report. Arguments of counsel, the contents of the file, and no sufficient reason having been shown why judgment not be pronounced and sentence imposed. In case number 23 CR 404, Commonwealth of Kentucky versus Tiffanie Lucas, as to count 1. The court will adjudge the defendant guilty of the offense of murder and fix her sentence at life in prison. On count 2, the court will adjudge the defendant guilty of the offense of murder and fix her sentence at life in prison. This time, the court will order that the Sheriff's Department deliver the defendant to the custody of the Corrections Cabinet for service of her sentence of imprisonment. That's all for today. Court will be adjourned.